Thank you. Lisa, you can go to the next slide. Perfect. So right there, thank you. So again, welcome to meeting two of the joint BLPC PFRC Arlington Career Center project meeting. So with that, I just want to kick it off. We always want to start on time and end on time, but I want to actually start off with my board member, David Pretty, to start off with a couple of comments to get us started this evening. David.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to all BLPC, PFRC, and community members to the Arlington Career Center project meeting number 2. I'd like to start by recapping our goal. The superintendent will include an Arlington Career Center project in his proposed CIP in May that fits within the budget and addresses the school board's CIP direction. As you know, this project has been in the CIP for decades and must move forward to address the needs of the full-time students already at that site. The facilities at the site need to work within the neighborhood. And just want to thank you for coming prepared and doing homework for tonight. As you know, we're doing things a little bit differently this year. Not only is the format different, but we're weaving in your ideas and suggestions to shape each meeting. So, for instance, in your homework, you had illustrations, and the illustrations that we'll use tonight have changed based on the input you provided in the last meeting. Please note that these are designs. The designs that are included to help APS gather input from you on some key project features. That's including building height, massing, transportation infrastructure, open space, etc. And then the BLPC and the PFRC input through this process will shape all future decisions about the new Arlington Career Center building and parking garage. So, as I did last meeting, I want to reiterate that the school board is committed to keeping the number of students and staff on the site manageable, which means maintaining a maximum student capacity at 2,750 seats, which is lower than the Career Center Working Group max, which means that the existing Arlington Career Center building or the Montessori Public School of Arlington building will not both be used as a school. So any decision we make for a campus impacts all of our schools, and there are trade-offs. There is a concurrent project to develop a schedule for renovating older school facilities, and this work will take time. The plans for this campus will take shape in the next 2 capital improvement plans. So by 2024, the fiscal year 2025 to 34 CIP will spell out plans for the schools that will continue on the campus after the Arlington Career Center moves into its new building. So now for tonight, since we're doing breakout rooms, a couple of reminders about the breakout groups. So again, the facilities at the site need to work within the neighborhood, students and staff at the schools. The facilitators are note takers and are neutral, so it's their job to enable the discussion, capture the feedback, and send the information back to our staff team. So you should clearly see that feedback from meeting number 1 is reflected in the information you use to prepare for meeting number 2. Positive feedback from meeting number 1 highlighted the small breakout groups and the chance for every appointment of the BLPC and PFRC member to weigh in, which, as you know, is different from the 2019-2020 process. So as a result of that positive feedback, the same breakout groups will continue to meet tonight and then again on March 31st. And while we welcome having others listening in on breakout groups, the discussion time is finite, and therefore breakout groups are limiting input to appointed members. Furthermore, the meeting number 2 discussion guide is posted on the Arlington Career Center project webpage, and everyone is invited to use that same form to give feedback. So I'd like to thank PFRC Chair Sarah Steinberger and BLPC Chair Ted Black. I'd like to thank County Board Liaison Takis Karantonis, who couldn't make it tonight. He had a Civic Association meeting, but we've been working closely, so I'll provide a summary for him. And with that, welcome tonight. Back to you, Mr. Stockton.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, board member. So again, I just want to say again, Brian Stockton, Chief of Staff of Arlington Public Schools and facilitator, co-facilitator with board member Pretty in this process. And so again, I have to reiterate, this is the group that's going to get it done. I think I will keep lacing with that statement every time we meet. But just want to, if we could go to the next for the agenda. So again, here we are. Basically, we just started. We're just going to go through a couple of messages, just to kind of reiterate a couple of things that we think are important. At 7:18, we will go into the breakout groups. 8:30, we'll report out from the breakout groups. We have the chair messages at 8:45 and also the public comment. So we do want to give that 10 minutes of public comment. And then we will finish the meeting right at 9 o'clock. Start on time and end on time. Next slide, please. So again, just a couple of just house cleaning items. We are recording this meeting and all breakout sessions and all recordings will be posted in the next few days so others can hear the discussion. Please mute your microphones when you're not speaking to keep the background noise to a minimum. Open your chat box if you don't have it open now, so you can enter comments in here. And so basically, when it's your turn to speak, we can actually come back to those comments, but also we're recording and monitoring the chat box to be able to provide answers right away. I'm keeping time so we can accomplish our meeting goals and the time allotted. And the goal is to ensure that all voices can be heard. I will discuss this more before moving into the breakout groups. And again, all the resources are posted on the Engage page. The BLPC and PFRC members use this as a resource to prepare for meetings, gather and provide input from the stakeholders you represent, and others can use the same resource and tools to provide feedback. Next slide, please. Also, I wanted to point out that basically a one-pager has been created since we've had our last meeting. This has been developed to provide an overview of the Career Center project that provides a background, the project goals, the role of the BLPC, the scope limitations, and also the project timeline. But I want to, I know you can, it's so small you can't read it, but I want to point out, what's outside the lines. So some of the items outside of the scope of this project are changing the design options. Other schools on the site, maximum cost figure, the options selected by the school board in the CRP direction, and the educational specifications, and changing design options, and the location of ACHS. Again, this is something that we've created from the meeting one, just to provide an overview and also let people know what this is about and what it's not about. And so again, that's posted on the Engage page as well. Next slide. And so again, this is we always want to just point out the level of engagement that for these meetings. For this process, we are seeking stakeholder input on the preliminary concept design. In reviewing the materials ahead of the meeting, the feedback from meeting one addressed in the new site diagram and was summarized from the committee to review. Based on the majority of the feedback we have received, we have developed FAQs to answer specific questions we have received. Staff use all the feedback we received throughout the process to revise the concept design submitted for school board approval in April of 2022. Next slide, please. All of the information for the BLPC PFRC meeting is posted on the Arlington Career Center Project Engage page. All the information for tonight's meeting has been posted on the webpage under the section for February the 16th. Please note, additional FAQs will be sent in a follow-up email to this meeting and posted on the website tomorrow. While we were able to answer most of the questions by the time the reminder email was sent last week, not all of them we were able to answer all of the questions. So we have added some additional FAQs and will continue to do so as we receive additional questions in the future. As Mr. Pretty mentioned, the materials being reviewed tonight reflect input and discussion from meeting one. Ultimately, the input received from this committee is shaping the key features for the new school building and the parking garage. Next slide, please. Perfect. So again, the role of the BLPC and PFRC members. The process has a limited number of meetings. And again, I just want to reiterate as well that, if we feel that we need to add meetings to get this done properly, we will do so, which is why we're sending materials in advance to review before the meeting and providing follow-up materials so we can focus on critical discussions during the meeting. All of you represent key APS and county stakeholder groups. So this meeting is designed to hear from you and the concerns or desires of the group you represent. Also want to point out a couple more things too on this page. We need your help interpreting the information from your stakeholder groups because you know the specific concerns they have and items that they are focused on. So we are asking you to specifically help us with the following. While taking feedback from anyone, we need your help providing a coherent voice when possible from the stakeholder group that you represent by sharing any feedback that you have provided while trying to comprehensively share feedback trying to comprehensively share feedback representatives that's representative of the whole group as much as possible. For example, some of the feedback appears to be a collection of feedback, some with conflicting opinions and missing a clear voice. So if you can, please try to share the consensus that was reached amongst your group so the feedback is effectively captured and able to be considered for the project. An example of this is the feedback we received from the MPSA because it clearly represents a collective stakeholder group. So I encourage you to review this feedback after the meeting because it's available online. The committee chairs, Sarah and Ted, will discuss this more at the end of this meeting this evening. All right, next slide, please. Perfect. So now the PFRC principles of public design are framing the input for this project. And I think I've said that with our first meeting, we wanted to have guardrails just to make sure we stayed within scope of this project, and this is what we're using. So again, I want to give a shout out to Brett Wallace for providing that information for us as we were preparing for these meetings. The joint meetings are gathering input on some key decisions for height, massing, location, transportation to further analyze to use as we move forward toward the schematic phase later this summer. Based on the input we have received, there is a clear desire to develop a master plan for the entire campus, which means the community wants us to make decisions about MPSA, use of the existing ACC building and the library. As I mentioned earlier, when I reviewed the committee's role, this BLPC PFRC process is focused exclusively on a new ACC building and parking, which addresses the school board's project requirements. The planning process should address critical decisions around the new ACC building and associated on-site parking, while acknowledging the long-term site use will be the result of a separate planning process in future CIPs. Input from this process will inform key project features like building height and massing, transportation, infrastructure, open space, etc. Some of these aspects we have received feedback on will be reflected when the school board takes action on the concept design scheduled for April of 2022 and schematic design scheduled for September 2022. Next slide, please. So, of course, there was the news of that about the 3108 Columbia Pike, the SunTrust building. Please note that the county board meeting on this past Saturday, the county board purchased the property there. They purchased the property. APS and Arlington County collaborate on numerous projects. Our understanding is there will be opportunities that the county will explore as it begins to plan for this location. Some of the opportunities may address the library. Those decisions are years away and will be addressed in the county CIP. The ACC project will continue to include the library and its parking needs on the campus. Next slide. Perfect. All right, so now we can move back to, perfect. So there was a chat that said sometimes the connection is poor. So Daryl, could you check that? But also, again, as we prepare for the breakout groups, want to go over a couple of logistics and discussion items. If you go to the next slide for me. Everyone in the meeting will be moved into their breakout groups. Breakout rooms will gather feedback from the BLPC and PFRC members only. Others invited to observe have been assigned to focus groups and can provide feedback using the same form on the website. Facilitators will take a roll call at the start of the breakout group and call on assigned BLPC and PFRC members for each question. While we welcome having others listening in on breakout groups, this discussion time is finite, as David pointed out, and breakout groups are limiting input to appointed members. The Meeting 2 discussion guide is posted on the ACC project webpage, and everyone is invited to use it, the same form to give feedback. If you have any problems, please send a chat to Daryl Johnson on the page. You can see that on the page. So again, I just want to do a couple of house cleaning items, but again, I'm just very appreciative of the amount and the volume of engagement that we have from this community to help us get this right. And so I would like to thank everyone for participating. I'm seeing faces. Alyssa, I saw your face out there. Carlisle, I saw yours as well. So I appreciate all of you participating in this to help us get this moving forward. So again, I would like to say that this is the group that's going to get this done. And your help and your input tonight, I would say give us your best thinking so we can get this done. So with that, I would like to introduce Jeff Chambers, who's going to talk about developing the revised concept. Jeff?
Brian, before you do that, can you acknowledge the students?
Oh, great. All right, perfect. So again, I received a note from Margaret Chung earlier today that we have some students who are part of the BLPC group. I'm not sure, are their cameras up at all, or could they raise their hands? Or
they had their cameras on earlier. I wonder if Kaya Alex is there. Akram had his camera on. There's Kaya.
Hey, Kaya, how are you?
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how are you? Perfect. And so, again, you all, and so I'm happy to have them part of this process. I think is what we do at Arlington Public Schools. Our job is to create responsible citizens and leaders. And having them part of this process is helping them become so. And so, again, I welcome their input because, again, one thing I said at the first meeting is that, as we give us your best thinking tonight, put students at the center of that thinking because we're doing this all for them. So I really appreciate that. And so Kaya, Alex, I didn't see the other person, but again, thank you all for participating. We're so happy to have you here. And so with that, I will go to Jeff Chambers.
Thank you, Brian. Let's see. All right, thank you. You did move to the next slide. Thank you, Lisa. I just want to start out by thanking everyone for doing the homework. Hopefully it has informed you and given you some information. We're going to go through a little bit of that tonight for those who haven't seen it, and just to prepare for the conversation that you'll be having later tonight. I just want to note that not one, but many inputs contribute to the development of the conceptual design, including the educational specifications, principles of civic design, data observations and analysis of transportation, ongoing conversations with the Career Center, as well as Arlington County staff, and of course, BLPC, PFRC, and public input, such as we're looking for tonight. Tonight's meeting input is focusing on revisions to the building massing and internal site circulation for buses and pedestrians. Meeting number 3 of the BLPC PFRC will focus on further refinement of the areas adjacent to the Career Center and on-site parking. Next slide, please, Lisa. Just want to talk briefly about the principles of civic design, the strategies that we're looking at in building massing incorporated into the process to achieve these civic design principles. Such as Principle 12, appropriately scaling the building to the site and the neighborhood. The one thing we're looking at there is stepping the height of the building along Walter Reed from the lowest height at 7th Street, rising up toward 9th Street. Principle 13, breaking mass into smaller parts to emphasize a more human scale. We're looking at breaking up the facade of the building into smaller parts rather than a monolithic front facade facing Walter Reed, and shifting the mass of the building parts to create opportunities for positive spaces along Walter Reed for students and pedestrians during school time and non-school time. Principle 10, ensure the building and site work together in a coherent way for the functions. Some of the things we're looking at is relating the outdoor space to what is going on inside of the building, creating usable space with integrated seating on plazas and opportunities for outside dining, and integrating walkways into the landscape. Principle 8, orienting the building entrances to the adjacent street, so entering the building is intuitive and natural, and to orient the prominent public entrances, one thing we're trying to do to face Columbia Pike adjacent to Walter Reed off of a pedestrian plaza to try to meet that principle. Principle 11, creating positive outdoor spaces with a pedestrian emphasis, as well as taking advantage of the civic program or school to create bold architecture. We're working to do that by providing an on-grade and elevated terraces as plaza space, looking to use massing to emphasize the public entry to create a bold, strong street presence. Next slide, please. Talking with regard to bus service, bus and service circulation, we talked a little bit about that at the last meeting. We've been talking much more with regard to how to achieve that on the site. The one option we were looking at was basically going off of Highland and back onto Highland with a U-shaped traffic pattern. We also were looking at also keeping a connection to Walter Reed and then also having that the opportunity for that bus circulation over towards MPSA in that U-shaped transportation. I think that to support long-term flexibility for bus operations, I think that option 2 is what we're currently recommending, that includes a plaza that extends from Walter Reed to South Highland Street, and would be designed to support bus service operations during the school day and be dedicated to pedestrians at other times. That's the direction, and we'd like to get some input with regard to what your thinking is on that. Next slide, please. There we go. Here you have 4 different renderings with regard to some of the things that I was just speaking about. The upper left, looking at the stepping of the mast from 7th Street and looking at the breaking up the facade to reduce the scale. And we are working to make sure that the programs work within the space. Also, we are looking at regularly shaped or regular shaped structures to make it more cost effective to build. But that also provides those positive spaces along Walter Reed that can create small plazas and areas for students and the public. The plaza and entry in the upper right, again, looking at that plaza that would be for buses as well as pedestrians when in non-bus times, and designing that in that way. And you can see where we're talking about the entry that is off of Walter Reed, yet it respects facing Columbia Pike. In the lower left, you can see one of the thoughts that we're thinking about with regard to breaking up that facade even more by creating those terraces as student plazas, which will also help break down the scale of the larger building and provide students with secure outdoor space at the same time. And then in the lower right, you can see the plaza and a rendering of the plaza between the field and the existing career center, with the new facility in the distance there, to create that plaza and public space that could be used for public functions as well as bus pickup and drop off. Next slide, please. Wanted to talk a little bit, have you consider the issue with regard to on-site parking requirements. The on-site parking requirements should be are data-driven based on demand. We've been using the 400 spaces as a placeholder based on past information. Essentially, what we're looking to do or have done is looked at calculating the peak demand and when that peak demand is. Looking at a potential reduction based on trends with transportation demand management goals that we could feel would be achievable, and that would be working with the county as well. And we have to look to assign supply on and off site to match that peak demand. And the final number will be based on the calculation as it's determined and also as approved by the county as part of the use permit for this for school facilities as it typically is. Next slide, please. We are calculating the peak demand. We're looking at this chart, for instance, that is showing the ACC base ed specs with the school students as the students, staff, and visitors for the buildings on site. But with the 2,283 students, we would be looking at a total demand, and I believe it's around noon, 338 to 393 total parking spaces at that peak demand. If we look at the maximum site capacity is set by the board, which Mr. Pretty noted earlier, the 2,570, it doesn't increase all that much, but that we were looking at 377 to 436. And again, not all of these would necessarily have to be in the structure. That's something that we're looking for input from everyone this evening on. And the last slide that I have is with regard to on-site parking considerations. We would have to be looking at the considerations for the on-site parking is the range of the parking demand, priority of users to be on or off-site versus the street, availability or other parking structures nearby, availability of on-street parking at the time of peak demand, initial and ongoing maintenance costs, phasing and durations of construction, trade-offs between space for parking versus other potential uses, and the flexibility for future site development, and as well as the ability to add or reduce parking with demand changes in the future. Looking at this sketch or the drawing, you can see a dotted line, which is showing the parking structure, which we had looked at last time or talked about last time, but noting that that footprint shown in that dotted line would be about 100 cars per level. If you did 4 levels, of course, that would be 400. The blue area was considering if we would make that all surface parking, and that would accommodate about 165 cars. One of the comments that was brought up at the last meeting with the entry into that garage structure should be in mid-block on 9th Street was a lot of the comments we had. If we did that, we would probably be looking at lowering the garage because we would probably do some excavating there. If that was the case, as a preliminary look that we did, would probably be about the height of the current structure on the back of the Career Center building. But again, of course, this would have to have more study done as we would look into that. So I hope everybody has a great conversation this evening as you work through your groups, and I'm going to turn it back to Brian. You're on mute, Brian.
So again, Jeff, thank you for that. And again, I just want to stress, there's a lot of information that Jeff went through really quickly. So I'm saying that to say that how important it is to do the homework. That's why we send it out days in advance so we can have robust discussion. So Jeff, I appreciate that. And so now what we do is you'll be moved into your breakout groups. And again, best thinking, student centered, and I will see you back at 8:30. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
Yes. Are you about to be magically swept away as well?
Hold on, David's calling me in.
I haven't been put in a breakout room yet. I'm supposed to be in number 1.
Yeah. I wish I could help you.
I'll wait till Daryl gets back.
Yeah, Daryl will be back to help you.
Okay,
you.
yeah. I'm sorry. I think it's amazing. It sounds like Star Trek, and people are zapped away. They come back. So
It is interesting.
it is. I mean, it's kind of cool. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hey, Brian. Good evening, sir.
I know, man. Good evening to you. Yeah.
Yep, Akron is that somewhere.
Akram, you what breakout group are you supposed to be in?
Sir, I think I'm supposed to be in breakout 1.
Okay. So Amy Ramirez is here with you. You guys will be zoomed away soon. Yeah.
Hi,
So,
Akram.
perfect. Akram, thank you for participating in this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, Daryl's back.
Okay. Yeah, Dale, we got Akram and also Amy looking to get into breakout group 1.
Okay, let me see. Amy. So Amy, you'll have to actually move yourself because you're actually one of the people who have access to it. But Akram, let me get you moved over. And Akram, do you remember which room you were in?
He's in
No,
one.
actually, I see it's group 1. Okay.
He's in 1.
And Akram, I'm in the process of moving you over. It just takes a couple of seconds. There you go. Okay. And then I think Sergio. Sergio, are you back? I think you're in group 7, correct? Yeah.
I think Sergio might have made a note that he would be right back. So you might want to just move him.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like he signed in twice, so I'm just moving the other account over.
Hi, this is Sergio. Sorry, I was having some audio issues. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
So Sergio, you're in the process of getting moved over. And it just moves him over. Okay.
And Daryl, we move around by going to participants, right?
Correct. Yes.
And we can just click on the different groups.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Had to remember.
Jeff,
And with
Jeff,
Derek,
where
you gotta
is
show
that?
something. Yeah, me
Just
too.
click on the show participants and then it'll show you the rooms. And then you can click on the rooms to get into it.
Mine's not. I'm clicking on participants, and I just got the list of.
Oh yeah, that's all I have too.
It's not,
Oh, not participants. It's the one. So next to the 3
Oh,
ellipses, the one to the left.
break rooms, I see it.
Right.
Yep, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I see it. Thanks. Thank you, Darren.
Say it again, Daryl. I couldn't hear.
So next to the 3 ellipses, you have to click the one. It's like 2 squares inside each other. So then it should show you breakout rooms. So if you
Okay.
hover over the room and then press the 3 ellipses again, it gives you the option to join a room.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Reading it myself, but if you're gonna read them,
Okay.
then it'd be good to just maybe read it twice in a row.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
The revised site concept proposes an area between the existing ACC and new ACC and new field that would both support bus service operations during the school day and resemble a public plaza at all other times. What features of this proposal do you like the best?
Where are you on this thing?
Oh, I was there. There you go. He said I was there. Let me go to the chat and say I don't seem to be here.
Daryl?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to the,
Assuming that it's
oh,
implemented.
okay, I did,
Seems
I,
good.
is that-
I mean,
Rosa, would you mind repeating?
don't know.
There was some interruption on the call.
I don't know, just,
Sure.
let me just
I
listen. If
said
I
I
don't
like
comment.
the efficient use of the site in that manner, having kind of a public
You click there
pedestrian
and it usually does it.
So Terry, for some reason you're back in the main room. You want to go back to the breakout room. Is it on hold? Because it's not letting me move you back. So it should be, okay. And then Brian, were you having a problem with something?
when I did the agenda, I didn't see 725 anywhere on it, or the kids' names when it was time to talk about the students either. Was that supposed to be in the notes? Daryl?
Oh, sorry. I was on mute. I was trying to call Amy. I believe maybe they accidentally got removed from a version earlier because I thought I did see them when I looked at it earlier. But the times are, yeah, it says breakout rooms. Yeah, I was unclear because it says breakout rooms at 7:18. I don't see the 7:20, whatchamacallit. So I thought it was 7:18 too.
Lord Jesus.
But hold on, let me call Amy because she needs to get to the right room, but it's not moving
Good
her.
thing. I'm gonna step away.
Okay. Hi, Terry. Do you need to get sent back to your breakout group? Okay, give me 1 second. Let me pull up the list so I can see which group you're in, and I'll send you back. Group 7. Okay, I am sending you back. It'll take a couple of seconds. And you're getting sent over now, Terry. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Person's gonna have to come back and let you in or something. Well, at least you're only on there once now.
Just forget it. It's just not working for me. I'm just gonna leave.
Well, the guy is, he probably can't believe you're signing it again.
Let's see what these screens look like.
Probably do it by telephone.
I could have, yes. I'm just going.
That's irrelevant to you. don't know what it means. Well, go away if you're not. I'm just gonna go away. I'm gonna see. Figure this out.
You don't have to figure it out. I made all the comments I made notes on.
Carrie keeps getting pushed out, Daryl.
Yeah, I just moved her back into her room.
Okay, cool.
So she should be good to go.
Have you been going into any rooms? Well, let me tell you something. Yes.
And along Highland Street, make sure that it is visually clear. Uh-oh.
Hello?
Magic.
We're back.
All right, great.
Hello again.
Hey, hello again. Did Daryl, do we have everyone back?
No, some people are still coming back now. So I would say give about maybe another 30 seconds.
Okay, just let me know.
It just takes a little bit of time for them to transition from the breakout rooms to the main room.
I'm still amazed by all this, like Star Trek to me.
Definitely the Matrix.
Yeah, I know, right? The Matrix. Yeah. You're right, Renee.
Okay. So Lisa, I'm sorry. Make sure, yeah, you shared it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, all the rooms are closed, so everyone should be back now.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you, Daryl. So let me say this, and I made a joke, and since everybody's back, I'll repeat the joke. It's how we able to move everyone in and out. It's like we're beaming up people and then beaming them back. So, but I hope when you are beamed away, we got your best thinking there. And I have to say this before I just get back to the regular program, is that I'm amazed when I go into the breakout groups at the level of engagement in Arlington and how everyone is into it. I've been in education for quite some time. I've never seen anything like it. And so it's amazing to see. So with that, I just want to remind everybody that the notes from all the breakout groups will be compiled and posted on the website and used by staff to prepare for the next meeting, meeting number 3. And so now I'll ask each group to share. Last time we did 1 point. We're going to do 3 points. She had 3 points, and so everyone can have a shared understanding of, the main points of your discussion group for the project. And I'm going to ask the note takers, I'm going to go in sequential order, but the subsequent note takers, if you can listen to the report out closely, if another report identifies one of your top, one of the points that you're going to make, I'm just going to ask you to move down the list to share another point that you've made. So with that, I will go out and go ahead and start and call on the note taker for group 1, for breakout group 1.
That is me, Amy Ramirez. So one important thing was on question number 3, the revised massing of the building and the responsiveness of staff to feedback. Breaking up building mass to be more visibly appealing. That's for section A. For part B of question 3 is the lack of long-term planning. That's in regards to the overall use of the site, which site will be torn down, whether it be the current ACC building or the Montessori building. The next one is the lack of green space.
Okay, all right, perfect. Great, thank you. Note taker for breakout group 2.
Hi. So for question number 1, there was a lot of discussion about wanting to conserve green space as much as possible and reduce the impervious surfaces. There's also a great comment about the main entrance and also buses lining up along Walter Reed, and the idea that the buses there would be on the periphery instead of crisscrossing the site, which would make the plaza a lot more usable. And by putting a median in Walter Reed that would kind of delineate the bus area, the median would allow the cars to continue moving and they wouldn't have to stop. And then also there were, again, we had a discussion about the angles of the buildings and the interesting shape. Also, there were questions about our comments that the terracing and then the green roofs were beautiful. However, will those green roofs be maintained and attractive? Also, can the terrace or the rooftop be used for classroom use, such as greenhouses or even play space for some of the children programming?
Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you, Bethany. All right. Note taker for breakout group 3.
Yeah, let me do my best here to pick a couple of highlights. The public space was very popular, very well received. There was a lot of interest in the width of the plaza, so that'll be something for Jeff and Ben, because there's a lot of questions about, will it be wide enough for a bus, or is it generally going to be wider than that for the other uses that you envisage? And inevitably, even though we're not talking about MPSA, there's impacts on MPSA, and throughout we had several questions impacting on what impacts would happen to MPSA, particularly since their main entrance would likely be gone here because of the configuration of the new building. Most of their parents come in for drop-off from Walter Reed. That would have to change, and there might have to be a little bit of reconfiguration. So again, we're not mainly talking about MPSA, but there's a lot of sort of secondary impacts that will have to be taken into account here. Another interesting thing was that the group generally kept expressing concern that not knowing the fate of the existing Career Centre building probably handicaps us in making the optimum choices in the design for the new stuff. In other words, they felt as if they had a clearer idea on that. One of the things that came up was, could that create a situation where we might have a bigger field, because they felt the size of the field was too small. The parking garage was again generally well received. They didn't really mind it being stacked, but there was a lot of concerns that it was so far from the entrance to MPSA and to the Career Centre, assuming the main entrance would be towards Walter Reed. So those are some general points. We did get some fabulous input, and we'll pass it all on.
You're overtime tonight, Jim. Thank you for those points. Okay. That's great. The note taker for breakout group 4.
Hi, this is Olivia Sontag. So generally got some positive feedback on some of the attempts to minimize the massing and the scale along Walter Reed Drive. Did get some good feedback on the terracing and the proposed potential plaza space, vehicle-free space there. But there were some comments that it would they would almost prefer to see some of the terracing on the interior of the site facing the field. If it could be on both sides of the building, that would also be nice, but that was just a thought that came up. And then, there was some consensus among all the members that they would prefer to have green space over a larger parking footprint, but would like to see that parking garage pushed further east towards Walter Reed Drive if possible, to take away the kind of the massive structure from Highland Street.
Great, thank you, Olivia. Note taker from breakout group 5.
Hi, good evening. It's Renee Harbor. So general consensus that the plan definitely has a good flow in the space. There are some concerns and want to make sure that we consider the various ages of students who will be accessing the entire facility area, from the Montessori students all the way down to our child development students in early childhood center. So we have as young as two weeks old all the way up to high school. So when we're considering safety, access to the parking in the buildings, drop-off, pickup, things of that nature, still want to make sure that's being considered in the design. Also, a suggestion was provided about if there's possibility to link the parking structure in a way for individuals to get to their building locations by not having to walk around the old Career Center building. Wanted to give a shout out that this revised citing really did answer many of the questions that were presented during meeting 1. And with regards to the principles of civics design, they really feel like that it is meeting all of those principles that were shared this evening. And we had a lot of other, I've heard a lot of repetition, so I believe those were some of the main points that came out this evening.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent.
Thank you.
Get used to it. Breakout groups, don't take it for breakout group 6.
Okay, that's me, Lois Kuntz. There was one of the principles of the design that my group called out and said that they didn't feel that having the main entrance on Walter Reed was a good fit, that it ought to be at the same end of the building, but on the inside of the campus more, that it would be closer to where people were getting off buses. It would be somehow more fluid than from walking around the building to the front, and maybe even safer. So that was one change in the principle of civic design that they would apply. I think the group felt that it was almost an all or nothing. Buses and pedestrians should not share space, and so you either have the buses come through to Walter Reed or you have the pedestrian plaza, but that mixing the two doesn't feel very safe. But that we're starting to get it right on some of the design in terms of the offset building and the terracing and the stepping back, that was all very popular. I would just say one last thing about the parking. As opposed to moving it closer to Walter Reed, there was some discussion about moving some of the parking around the corner on Highland Street just to get it closer to the other buildings. So we're moving it all around the map, it sounds like. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. And then to the group, Lois is the newest member of our planning and evaluation team. So wish her all the best in her job there. So we're working overtime already for that.
Thank
so
you.
You're more than welcome. All right, note taker for breakout group 7.
Good evening, this is Robert Ruiz. So many of the ideas that were talked about in our group were previously mentioned, but regarding the pedestrian plaza with bus use, there was an opposition to it, but there were more questions. For example, how would that shared use be used? What would be the logistics around that shared use? And also, how is that public plaza envisioned? How would it behave? There, like another group mentioned, there was there were some observations around the terracing, specifically the location, that if the terraces were to be used exclusively by students, that perhaps we should explore the terraces facing the fields. But if they will be shared by the public as well, that perhaps it is appropriate for it to face the street. You know, there were also questions about, will there be accessibility to the terraces by the public, at least some of them. And regarding the principles of public design, one thing that came up was public art in the plaza. And like other groups mentioned, the new massing from the new scenarios were well received.
Great, thank you. Renee, you forgot one point. Thank you so much, Robert. Renee, you forgot one point you need to make real quick, or
They can read it in the chat, but it was a really good point. I'm sorry. I think we should just bring it out. I think it's fresh in our minds. So.
Okay, but that's fine. I will refer everybody to the chat now, so we can, again, we're going to put all this together and put it on the site. So with that, we can go to the next slide, Lisa. And so what I would like to do is the two of the most important people of the night. I would like to bring back out here is our BLPC chair, Ted Black, and the PFRC chair, Sarah Steinberger, as well. So I'm going to bring them out too, so they can say a couple of words. So, Ted.
Thank you, Brian. First off, we really want to thank everybody for your participation. Those of you in the community who have taken some time out of your evening to be informed and to see how the process is working, but especially our BLPC and PFRC members. You know, you represent important stakeholders who are going to be impacted by this project. We have every intention to make that impact positive, to make that something that people are proud of, and that something that people will want to be involved in, with the not only the building itself, but also the programming and just the students that are going to be coming in and out of the Career Center, and also the Montessori program as it stays there on site for now. But you're important conduits to those groups, and you have an important job in getting their input, and it's a challenging job because there are people who are involved, but inevitably in these types of things, somebody says, well, I didn't know about it. So the one thing I would encourage you to do as you go back to your stakeholders, you know, if there's a newsletter that'll be coming out before our next meeting that'll reach somebody who may not be on the listserv, you know, please try and reach out in that way, and think of other different ways that you might reach out to people who might not otherwise get involved in the process or being able to contribute in some way, because we don't want people to go and say, well, I didn't know what was going on. We want them to feel like this is something they can own. And as you do that, I'll turn it over to Sarah to kind of touch base with you on some of the things that we would love for you to do.
Thanks, Ted. So, I mean, Ted, we heard earlier, you know, as Brian presented it, what we're really looking for is, you know, as representatives of stakeholder groups, to take the feedback from your stakeholder groups and and really coalescing that around kind of themes and kind of bringing a commonality to the message that is being conveyed, so that there is a cohesive voice and we're able to hear that. And it's not just sort of a collection of comments without sort of being grouped appropriately and sort of brought together to be cohesive. And that doesn't mean that necessarily everyone is going to feel one way, but presenting topics so that the feedback is uniform and you feel the one voice of it as you're taking the feedback and processing it. And that's really what we're looking to have, you know, you all do as official representatives for the different stakeholder groups, to make sure that this process, that, you know, as Ted was saying, that folks feel engaged, and they're, you know, we minimize the number of people who said, but I didn't know, and really give people a chance to have that kind of meaningful feedback opportunity. And then as far as, you know, it's using the same discussion guide that, you know, we went through tonight, which is available on the website. You know, filling that out and then sending it to the email address which is provided, but engage@apsva.us. We're looking for feedback by March 3rd. And yeah, if the feedback, you know, reiterating, if the feedback comes from a member of the BLPC or the PFRC, then we're taking the approach that it does represent the feedback of that stakeholder group. And, you know, if you have any, you know, concerns or questions with regards to that, you know, please, you know, Ted and I are resources, as are other folks, and, you know, we're happy to chat with y'all. And I think I ran through all of my bullet points, so thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Sarah. You guys are the most important people in this group to help us get there. And I just want to just echo a lot of things. Again, we appreciate the engagement and the level, and just like Ted said as well, you taking the time out of your evening to make it happen. So I just want to repeat that. And also, again, I still want to give another shout out to those students, again, that joined us. And again, they're in the learning experience right now. So I'm pretty sure, I hope they provided a lot of feedback this evening. So thank you. We'll now want to kind of move to, again, as we promised, we want to do 10 minutes of public comment. We'll give every 5 people with 2 minutes apiece. And so I'm going to yield to Daryl to tell me who the first speaker are, and just walk us through the speakers if you can, Daryl.
Okay, it looks like we have Mr. John Snyder.
Great.
Hello, I'm John Snyder. I'm the chair of the Columbia Pike Partnership. At the last meeting, I brought up the fact that there is no auditorium, there is no performing arts space here. it's been important all through the planning here. And this is the 4th planning process I've been through on this building.
Yeah.
That the benefits to the community are recognized and promoted because they offset the impositions on the community. This is a benefit that disappeared on us. There's been zero communication about it. We have no idea why it was done. And all of this about people don't know what's going on. Arlington Public Schools has not told the public anything about this. The only person on this call who has informed the public that the auditorium was taken out of all the discussions is me. You have not made this public. We don't know why. I discovered it by reading the ed spec. So supposedly the ed spec is that this school doesn't need one, which is not credible considering that all the other public high schools have one. So I brought this up at the last meeting. I was told that this would be addressed. It's not even in the record. So frankly, the comments about bringing concerns to this committee and that they will be addressed is really disingenuous. You have not addressed it. You have not even told the public what it is that you're doing. I would appreciate it if you would actually come clean with the public and tell us why this is happening and why it's not being addressed to the public when we ask the questions.
Great. Let me stop there. I'm not sure, I think I had it in my notes. I don't see it in the notes. We did address that, John. Also, we will definitely be in the fact sheet tomorrow. We did not ignore it at all. So what we can do is, if I'm not sure if Lisa or Daryl, if you could put the information in the chat right now, please do so. At the same time, John, it would certainly be in the fact sheet tomorrow as well. That was one of the points that I made sure that we want to address, but it was certainly not in my notes as I went through it this evening. So I just want to let you know we did, and it's, we're trying to run a high integrity process here, and so I just want to make that statement. Daryl,
Just in the record that you put on the website.
Okay.
Yes, because we were in the process of getting it ready for the FAQs, so it didn't make the first round of FAQs. So will be sent out to all of the committee members tomorrow, as well as posted on the website tomorrow.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, John.
Yeah,
Next
it actually
speaker.
went up on the website late today. I apologize. I didn't get it out sooner than that.
Okay, great. Perfect. Great. All right. Next speaker.
That is it. It looks like Mr. Snyder was the only one who wanted to speak.
Okay, well, fantastic. That means we have time. So with that time, I would like to project the answer about the auditorium right now.
Or actually, while Lisa's pulling that up, Lisa, it looks like Heather Jones would like to speak. So Heather, if you want to, you can go ahead and you'll have 2 minutes.
Yes, I would just like to request more time to seek comment from our groups. I represent a neighborhood, and you're actually providing me about 2 weeks to get comment, but there's no neighborhood gathering in that time period, so I have to do it all by email, and I don't get good comment that way. So I would request more time to respond to your comment request in order to get better comment from the community.
All right, thank you. Are there any other speakers, Daryl?
No, it looks like Heather was the last person who raised her hand.
Okay, great. Where are we on getting the auditorium information up?
Brian, I just put it in the chat. I don't have it as a slide. It was in talking points, but I can't find them. But I did find it on in the run of show.
Perfect. Perfect. So,
Do you want to read it to the group? Just
let me see here. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So the question.
I think Kaya might want to speak.
Okay, great. Well, let me finish with this question first. How was it decided that the new ACC building would not have an auditorium? The building includes multiple large spaces to accommodate groups of students, parents, and community members for assemblies, parents' information nights, and other school and community-related events, including a full-size gymnasium, black box theater, and cafeteria. The Black Box Theater supports the instructional needs of the arts and broader instructional program at ACC. Educational specs were developed by a cross-departmental team providing guidance and overall requirements for learning and support spaces, quantities, and quantities for an option school. Students who want theater as a focus are not likely to attend the school. Remember, this building will have a substantial footprint allocated for state-of-the-art career and technology, educational labs, and workshops that will be unique to this high school building and that's not available at other high schools. So, and also we'll put the same information up on the FAQ tomorrow. So, well, you did answer that question. So I'm just apologize that we didn't have it out. It wasn't up on the screen as well. So. We're trying to run a high integrity process and not leaving no stone unturned, although we did not unturn it, having it in the presentation tonight. So we will have that corrected. So I just want to make that point. We are taking all feedback into consideration, everyone. And so I just want to make sure that everyone knows that as well. So with that Jeff, did you say someone else wanted to speak as well?
Yes, Kaya DeMarco. I believe Kaya, did you raise your hand?
I guess so. I just want to say I understand from like the community perspective, the use of the theater. We use for say I live in the Gun City community, and we do use that theater for performances and watching the students perform, as well as other companies like Synthetic and Encore. But for the purposes from a student perspective of the Arlington Tech building and the programs that we have there, expending that much useful space, I don't think would be beneficial to the students because we won't be using that space as much as we'd be using a black box or a common cafeteria area for meetings or gatherings. And we could be using that space better for adding an additional culinary lab or expanding a CTE course.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Kaya. Are there any other? This will be the last one. Is there anyone else? All right, great. All right, perfect. So again, I want to thank everyone again. Like I said, there's repeating what Ted said. I've taken out your evening to do this, and just to see the level of engagement that I see when I pop into the rooms is fantastic. So again, just on this page we have up right now, just a reminder that all the information for our meetings are available on the website. And next slide, Lisa. And also a reminder that anyone could provide input on meeting 2, the discussion guide, and it's due by March the 3rd. You can send it to engage@aps.us. Later this week, Daryl will email all members with this reminder and attachments, including the discussion guide and next batch of FAQs. Recordings of this meeting will be posted on the Arlington Career Center Project website, and meeting 3 will be on March 30th at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Advanced materials will be posted for review by March 25th, and we'll review updated site plans based on input from tonight's meeting and through March 3rd. So again, you all, again amazed at the level of engagement. I'm happy that everyone comes out. And again, you can touch base with Ted. You can touch base with Sarah, Daryl, Lisa, board member Pretty. Any questions that you have in the meantime, we're happy to help and take it from there. So with that,
Brian, can I add one last housekeeping item?
Sure, ma'am.
I know the timeline for March 3rd is tight. However, this is critical for the architects to be able to take the information that we have and use it. But we did have a couple people that were late the last time, and what we said is bring those to this meeting tonight and use that input. If it's later than that due date, if we can't include it in the work, you can use it to evaluate the work next time. So it's not that it's not still useful if it's a bit later. It's helpful. We need to get it to the architects though, so that they can do this work and bring you back a revised plan.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, perfect. Board member Pretty, you're still here?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, perfect. Hey, I just want to give it to you to give us some closing words as we actually disclose.
No, just thanks for the participation tonight. I jumped around to a couple rooms and I enjoyed the conversation. So thanks for your input.
Thank you. All right, everyone, have a good night, and we'll see you next month. Take care.